Morning, students. The best of students in spite of all odds. You're welcome to this biology class for SS2. Today we're going to be treating biology of heredity part 2. The subtopic is patterns of inheritance. Patterns of inheritance. And in this pattern of inheritance, we are going to focus on sex determination and sex-linked characters. Sex determination and sex-linked characters. How do you determine when a male child is to be given birth to or when a female child is to be given birth to? Using the genetic crosses, you're going to find out that it is possible to determine, as long as you know the genetic constituent of a gamete. And of course, you know what gamete is. Gamete is the sex cell of a human being or even that of animals. So if you know all this content, then you can determine the sex of an offspring. We're going to be treating that, and we're going to also treat the sex-linked characters. There are certain characters out of the 46 chromosomes in a human cell. There are certain characters that are specifically located on the sex chromosomes. Now, they are quite different from other characters, and they are being transmitted in a different pattern from what we learned in monohybrid crossing and dihybrid crossing, complete dominance and incomplete dominance, although they will show a little sign of complete dominance. So we're going to be looking at these two aspects in our pattern of inheritance. Remember, sex determination and sex-linked characters. We're going to be watching and seeing how these things are done. First and foremost, let's see our specific objectives. At the end of this lesson, I should be able to define sex determination and sex-linked characters. Once you have the definition, you can know better. B, state the patterns of the inheritance of sex determination and sex-linked characters. We are going to be learning that too. The patterns of sex determination and sex-linked characters. These are the two specific objectives we are going to be focusing on. And let's get on with the definition of sex determination. Sex determination can be defined as the process by which the gender of an offspring is ascertained. It is a process by which the gender is a very scientific process by which the gender can be ascertained of that of an offspring. It reveals the pattern of the transmission of the sex-determining chromosomes. In every human cell, of course, a human being is made up of billions, trillions of cells. If you bring out one cell, just one, inside one cell you have 46 chromosomes. Out of that 46 chromosomes, just a pair contains the sex chromosomes, and that pair, during gametic formation, the production of gamete in males is called spermatogenesis, in females is called oogenesis. Now, during that process, the pair of chromosomes that determine gender will be segregated. Remember our first Mendelian law. So there is law of segregation of genes that will occur at this level to go into different gametes that will be formed. If you can recall back in our study of meiosis, you'll recall how these genes segregate in the second meiotic division, where 4 daughter cells are formed. Different genes are found inside the different gametes. So bear that in mind as we go on. And according to the definition, it says that sex determination is a process which determines the gender of an offspring. It also reveals the pattern of transmission of sex-determining chromosomes. I'll be showing you some pictures as well. Now, the next thing we need to define before we go on is sex-linked characters. What are sex-linked characters? In a human being, you have so many characters. You have the character of height, the trait of complexion, the trait of texture of hair, the trait of blood group, blood genotype. All those things are traits that can be passed on from parents to offspring. But there are ones that are only linked to the sex chromosome, which means they are found on the sex chromosome. Those pair of chromosomes that determine gender, you can find some other characters in them. And those characters, I can give you example, as you can see on your screen. You can see the genes for color vision. In other words, that gene that enables humans to distinguish between red color and green color and so many other colors, that is the gene for color vision. It is located on the sex chromosome. You can't find it on any other chromosome in the human cell except in the sex chromosome. So we call it a sex-linked character. Now, another example of a sex-linked character is the genes for platelet production. What are platelets? Platelets are also called thrombocytes. They are the components, they are part of the components of the blood. You know, the erythrocytes, the leukocytes, and the rest of them. So platelet is one of the components of blood in humans. Now, those that lack platelets, they suffer from a defect called hemophilia. But those that possess platelets, they will not suffer from that defect. So, coming to that gene that takes care of platelets, it is also located on the sex chromosome. So, it is a sex-linked character. I'm just giving you an example. As we go forward, you're going to be seeing more explanations on this sex-linked character. First and foremost, we dwell on sex determination. How do we determine the gender of an offspring through genetic crossing? Now, the first thing you have to know is that in the human cell, half the number of chromosomes are donated by one of the parents. By the way, before we go on, let me ask you, what is the number of the half of chromosomes in a human cell? Half the number, of course, is showing on your screen, is 23. The other half is also 23. 23 plus 23 will give you 46. And that means that there are 46 chromosomes in a human cell. 23 of all those 46, whether the cell is in trillions or billions or whatever in a human body, out of all those cells, 23 came from the father and the other 23 came from the mother, joining together in the fertilization between the spermatozoa and the egg to form the zygote that formed you as a human being. So the father's gametes has 23 chromosomes there, and out of that 23 chromosome donated by the father's spermatozoa, the one chromosome there is a sex-determining chromosome. Just one out of the 23. Now, for the mother's gametes, she also donated 23 chromosomes in her own egg. Now, out of that 23 chromosome that the mother donated in her egg, one is a sex-determining chromosome. As you can see on your screen, one determines it. Now, look at the upper side of your screen. You will see a picture of the sex chromosomes. Now, the one that is longer and bigger is the X chromosome, while the one that is shorter a little bit is the Y chromosome. Before we go to explanation more on that picture, I want to go down and show you some things. Now, when the male and female gamete fuse and form the zygote, you have a total of 46 chromosomes that forms the zygote, and the zygote will develop into the fetus. Of course, when the fetus is mature, at the end of 9 months, a baby is given birth to. and that's the human being. Now, these sex chromosomes have identifiable shapes. Even when you're observing it under the microscope, you can identify the sex chromosomes inside a human cell. This is not mythical stories. Please, you can observe it in the lab. When you view a human cell, you can see chromosomes like this, the one on your screen. The sex chromosomes can either be Y-shaped, and that is the one that is shorter and smaller in size. That is the Y-shaped chromosome. And then another sex-determining chromosome can take the shape of X. So the sex chromosome can either be Y-shaped or X-shaped. Once more, before I go to the next slide, please, the one that is larger in size, as you can see on your screen, that is the X chromosome, and the other one is the Y chromosome. As we go on, you will find out that the X chromosome will help in determining a particular gender, while the Y chromosome will also help in determining another gender. But I won't tell you the gender they will determine until we get to the next slide. Now, the next thing you need to know is that in a human female eggs, in the numerous eggs, the sex chromosomes that are found in them are always X-shaped chromosomes. Let me explain so that you will understand better. In every egg that a woman ovulates, of course, you know, in a woman's life, she can ovulate so many hundreds and thousands of eggs in her lifetime. Whether she ovulates 100,000 in her lifetime or 10,000 or 200, all of them must contain a sex chromosome that has X shape. She can never, ever, it has never been recorded, scientifically and otherwise, where a woman's egg is having a Y chromosome. It's only the X chromosome that will be produced. Now, for the male counterpart, he can possess either a Y chromosome or an X chromosome among the millions of his sperm cells. You know, a single, how do I put it now so that you can understand it? In a single ejaculation of a man, you find out that there are millions, between 20 to 300 to 500 million spermatozoans inside the sperm that is secreted. Now, is when the sperm mixes with the fluids that come out from the reproductive system, is called the semen. So in a single ejaculation of a semen, there are millions of spermatozoans. Now, in those spermatozoans, you can either have an X sex chromosome or Y sex chromosome. Let me repeat myself so that you get it very well. Out of all those hundreds of millions of spermatozoans, you can either have X sex chromosome or Y shaped sex chromosome. What does that tell you? That the man is the person that determines the gender of a child, whether it will be a female gender or whether it's going to be a male gender. Now, this scientific research has made nonsense of our ancient belief that it is the fault of the woman to determine the gender of a child. And women of old suffered in the hands of men because of ignorance, because they didn't know that it is the man that determines the gender of a child. Let's keep going so that you get this. Now, looking on your screen, you can see that the monohybrid crossing diagram is showing the male on the left-hand side of your screen and the female on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, the male is the one that has an arrow on top of the circle, and the female is the one that has a cross sign below the circle. So you look at the male has X and Y chromosome gametes, while the female is only having XX. So it then shows you from what you are watching on your screen, if the woman is XX and the man is XY, it means that XY determines male gender, while XX determines female gender. Now, during the segregation of the chromosomes and the genes during meiotic division, when the gametes are still being produced in the parents, look at what will happen is there on your screen. The first level you see here, as I'm pointing out to you, this level is the parent's gametes. That's the parent's gamete. This is the female and this is the male. Now, their gametes are going to segregate into this. For the male, the gametes will segregate with the genes. For this particular spermatozoa, it has X chromosome. For this particular one, it has Y chromosome. Now, for the female, when her eggs are formed, she will only produce X chromosome X. That will show that it is only the female gender that the woman can always produce. Now, coming down to the generation, first filial generation, look at what the possible offspring that will be produced. The X from the man can combine with the X from the woman to form a female offspring. So, when you have a zygote that has two sex chromosomes with XX shapes, you're going to get a female child. So for this is a female child. Then going to the other offspring, when the Y sex chromosome gamete from the man fuses with an X sex chromosome gamete from the woman, you're going to get XY zygote, which will now form the male. As you can see on your screen, this is the male child. The male child has XY sex chromosome, while the female has XX chromosome. Our next slide is going to show you a more diagrammatic representation that will make you to understand it better. That is the father there. The father has produced XY gametes among his millions of spermatozoans, while the woman always will produce the XXX. And then when you do your monohybrid crossing, these are the possible offspring you're going to get. The ratio, of course, is 2:2, 2 daughters and 2 sons in 4 possible offspring they are to get. It doesn't mean it will always follow this pattern, but these are the 4 possible offspring that can be given birth to. XY for male and then XX for female. Now, that is how to determine the sex of an offspring. This next slide further explains that. Quickly, let's go to sex-linked characters. You can practice this on your own in drawing these diagrams for you to understand it better. Now, when it comes to transmission of sex-linked characters, the gene, an example, as I told you earlier on, the gene for color vision is located on the X chromosome and not found on the Y chromosome. As you can see on your screen, the chromosome that is longer in shape, this one, is the X chromosome. The X chromosome, you can see the different characters that are located, their genes are located on the X chromosome. Now, this shorter chromosome is the Y chromosome that determines the male gender. You can see it has almost nothing inside except one gene that is represented here. So, on the female parts, as you can see, I gave you example, color vision. Let me show you where it is. This is the gene for color vision, and this is also the gene for platelets. But when it is absent, the defect is called hemophilia. So the gene for hemophilia is also located on this X chromosome and not on the Y. What does this interpret to us in terms of transmission of sex-linked characters? It means, listen carefully, it means that it is not dependent on the Y chromosome to determine if a child will be colorblind or a hemophilia. It is the X chromosome that will determine it. It is not the Y chromosome, as we can see in the next slide. In this next slide, you can see that this is a transmission pattern of hemophilia. The father is there. This is the father who has X and Y sex determining chromosome, while the female has XX. Now, the purple color that you are seeing on the screen is for the X carrier. That means that the X chromosome of this woman, one of the X chromosomes that form this woman, is carrying the gene for hemophilia, while the man, the X that formed the man, doesn't have any hemophilia gene. So the man is not suffering from hemophilia. But the woman is just a carrier. The woman is not a sufferer. Why? Because there is another X chromosome in the woman that is overshadowing the other defected gene. That is the hemophilia gene. As a matter of fact, this hemophilia we are talking about and the color blindness gene, they are all recessive. They are not dominant genes. They are recessive genes. I hope you know what a recessive gene is and what a dominant gene is. So, if it appears in a woman, like is in this woman on your screen, it means that one of her X chromosome is not carrying it. That means that she has a dominant platelet gene, which is overshadowing the hemophilia gene. So she's not going to suffer from it, she will only be a carrier. But let's see how it will affect the offspring when this woman is married to a man that is not even suffering from it. Now, if you do the crosses, you're going to find out that among the children, you will have, out of 4 possible kids they are going to have, you're going to have a daughter that is a carrier and a son that will suffer from it. Look at the son here. The son will suffer from it because this X chromosome from this woman happened to be the X chromosome that was among the sex chromosomes that formed this boy in particular. And of course, for a boy to be formed, this Y chromosome must be there. So this Y chromosome that came from the man has no choice than to accept this X chromosome that has the recessive gene. And because the Y chromosome has no answer for this X chromosome, this boy definitely will suffer from both color vision, if it is color vision gene we are tackling here, and also from hemophilia. So the boy is going to be a hemophiliac, while the girl is not going to suffer from it. Why? Because the girl has an S chromosome that is with the platelet gene, which overshadows the hemophilia defect. Now, for the other son was lucky enough. He did not get the X chromosome that carries the defect. He got the X chromosome that has the platelet gene. In your crossing, you will find out how this boy was able to escape this disease. Now, for the daughter by this side, the daughter is not even a carrier. Why? Because she got this gene from the mother, which has platelet gene, and she got this gene from the father, which also has platelet gene. That's why this girl is normal. She will never suffer from it. She's not a carrier. And also this boy is also normal. So that is how you see the transmission pattern of sex-linked characters. Exactly the way you're seeing this hemophilia transmission is the way that that of color vision is transmitted. The same pattern, the same mode. So you can see more examples for yourself in this next slide. Take your time to watch this video and analyze and digest every of these things. Please, practice makes perfect. I want you to work on this thing very well, and you will be an expert in all this transmission of genes. Thank you so much. Always remember to visit your Google Classroom for your notes and assignments. God bless you. You are the best in spite of all odds.